Turning to see the back in the long mirror, she smiled tentatively at the salesgirl. "Do you think the length—" The girl raised her thin shoulders in a shrug. By now, Arthur stood smiling at her indulgently, his hands still clasped behind his back. "I will take it," Mrs. Sidney said. She minced towards Arthur. "Very nice, dear," Arthur said. "Are you sure you've got what you wanted?" She nodded, smiling. He would have been willing, she knew, to pay £20 more once he had agreed on the economy of a good cloth coat. Arthur did not stint. The girl laid it out by the cash register, flapped some tissue between its crossed arms, and slid it, folded, into a big bag. Arthur took out a Virgin chequebook and his rolled gold fountain pen. Precisely, he unscrewed the cap. Smoothly the ink flowed. With care, he replaced the cap and returned the pen to the inside pocket of his Lovat sports jacket. Then, with a single, neat pull, he removed the cheque and handed it courteously to the girl. Mrs. Sidney was proud of that, proud of the way the transaction had been carried through, how they did not pay in greasy bundles of notes like plumbers and house painters. The carrier bag was heavy with the good cloth coat inside it, and Arthur reached out without speaking and took it from her. He asked about a hat, so anxious was he to have everything correct. But she told him that people do not go in so much for hats nowadays. To be truthful, millinery departments intimidated her. The assistants looked at you scornfully, for so few of the people who tried on hats ever made a purchase. They had lost faith in human nature. She was happy. They had a cup of coffee and a cream cake each, and then they went home. That night Arthur had his first stroke. When she got up in the morning, all the right side of his body was paralysed, and his mouth was twisted down at the corner. He couldn't speak. By 8 o'clock, he was lying on a high white bed at the General. She was sitting outside the ward, drinking the strong tea a nurse had given her out of a chipped white cup. All she could think was, "You can get these cups as seconds on the market. Could that be where they get them? A hospital? Could it be?" "He's on the free list," the nurse said. "You can come at any time." When she went to see him, he moved restlessly those parts he could move. He never again knew what day of the week it was, or anything at all about the world in the corridor or the marketplace beyond. He suffered his second stroke while she was there, and they put lilac screens around the bed and informed her that he had passed away. She wore the black coat to his funeral. Mrs. Sidney raised one elegant knee a little to prop her bag on it, fumbled inside, and took out a pink tissue. Standing by the stained and formless privet, she dabbed her eyes. She looked for a litter bin, but there were none in the avenue. She screwed the tissue back into her handbag and scissored along the street. The Axon's house stood on a corner. There was a little gate let in between the rhododendrons. No weeds pushed up between the stones of the path. And this was odd, because you would not have thought of Evelyn Axon as a keen gardener. There was stained glass in the door of the porch, Venus crimson, and the storm-dull blue of August skies. Mrs. Sidney stopped a pace from the door. She feared her nerve was going to fail her. Again she fumbled with her bag, patting for her purse to make sure it was still there. She did not know whether Mrs. Axon accepted payment. A small tickle of grief and fear rose up in her throat. She arrived at her decision. Mrs. Axon would already be watching from some window in the house. She placed her finger on the doorbell, as if she were buttonholing the secret of the universe. It did not work. But somewhere, in the dark interior of the house, Evelyn moved towards the door. She opened it just as Mrs. Sidney raised her hand to knock. Mrs. Sidney lowered her arm foolishly. Evelyn nodded. "Come in," she said.